Shanti, good morning. J'allais dire bonjour. Bonjour, good morning. So nice to be with all of you. And yeah, I feel I've reached a spiritual harbor where it's safe. It feels safe. It feels very welcoming. It feels inclusive. Yeah, I'm using the word smell. It's not the right word, right? It's fragrance. So I feel the fragrance, the sweetness, and yeah, what would be the word again, Julie, in English? Les tentacules, like the tentacles. Is it an English word? No, the ramifications. So you are not just stuck in a little bundle, but you have roots and branches, and they reach out. And I think we've seen how this wonderful, family, can't even call it Halifax, it's kind of a extended family, is, reaching out far in the world, such as in Canada, and touching our hearts. So congratulations. And it's always really inspiring. Anything that comes out of the Atlantics is always, inspiring. I missed the little video you showed earlier, so I'll try to catch up, but it sounded beautiful. And yes, nice to be with you all. I know your smiles, I know your eyes. That's all I need to know. The eyes and the smile is good. No need to know your nose, it's fine. I can talk about fragrance, but that belongs to your nose, not mine. It's okay. And the feeling is that today's Murli is actually really, every Sunday Murli seems to be always more special than the other, isn't it? But to me, recently, I found more and more, power in organizing the Murlis in my study. And I created a organigram of Murlis. And I'm actually looking at each Murli as a piece of a puzzle. And every Sunday, particularly every Sunday, but there's a few Sakar Murlis as well, which I, place differently in some different files or different ways. But I try to use every Avyakt Murli as a piece of a puzzle, and I look at the piece and I say, where this one goes? And this Murli today, of course, goes straight in the middle of the heart. And it's almost as if it fits with the battery of the heart to double check if the heart is beating at the right, speed, with the right sound, with the right fragrance, with enough light. And some Murlis appeal to, our own transformation. Some Murlis appeal to understanding Srimad. Some Murlis go towards, deeper look at the purity of the soul. But this one really looks at the love between the soul and Baba. And as much as we have love for each other and we really appreciate each other, the beauty of spiritual love, even with the family, is that at some point it doesn't even interfere with our love for Baba. It enhances it, actually. But we can have great love for each other. And my experience is actually that love is increasing tremendously. And when I see all of you, even those I'm meeting for the first time, just seeing you smile, I just feel attraction. I feel, closeness. I feel belonging. And of course, when I see some of you that I've known for a long time, long time, that love is even greater, but it doesn't interfere with my love for Baba and doesn't stop me from receiving Baba's love. Is that your experience too? Yeah, that's before. I would be honest with you, my love in the BK family was magnetic love that was very distracting. And I would be attracted to a Brahmin, because of their purity, but there will be a feeling of, connecting and exchanging, blood vessels, I don't know what, but I would feel like vampiring their themselves. Yeah, David, you don't want to. Okay, David is a visual. He didn't like that image. You see, you can tell right away who is visual, who is not. David jumped. So, yeah, vampiring love, which actually doesn't really, it's very healthy. But I remember being young in Gyan and seeing the purity and the fortune, the qualities of another Brahmin, and it will disturb me because there will be a feeling of comparison and I'm lacking, or I wish I could be like this. And there will be attraction, repulsion, karmic accounts. So it's kind of messed up. We knew it was the Brahmin family, but to really feel comfortable and undisturbed by love took a little while. Today, I can say very comfortably that my love for each one is powerful, beautiful, increasing, but it doesn't interfere with my love for Baba. And I've come to realize that, yeah, Baba's love and my love for him is the foundation. And there's no need to go anywhere else. Basically, he got it all. And when Daddy Janki says everything the soul needs is in God, it may take decades for some. I hear from some seniors, it took them a second. I really envy them and I feel, jealous sometimes. But at the same time, we know each one's journey is the right journey for the self. So today's Murli is about our experience of love, godly love, spiritual love. And I really enjoyed paying attention to that Murli because the connection Baba is making is, on one hand, he's describing this beautiful state of love. And I counted 17 different elements of love in the first part of the Murli. If you just pay attention when Baba describes what are the characteristics of that love and how that love manifests, there are 17 different aspects. There may be even more or less, depending how you play with them. But that love is very, very, very pure, very beautiful. And of course, as Baba does every time in the Murli, he display his beautiful introduction. He's like a movie maker. So in the beginning of the movie, he takes you into a whole thing. And then suddenly drama happens. And what he shows us is that, what happens when that love is not there. And then we don't know if we dare identifying ourselves with a less loving or less loved soul. But he starts to describe signs of disconnection of the hearts to that extent. So when he describes love, you see yourself dancing, singing, having such a great, you basically see Krishna under a tree playing the flute, and you are just a totally intoxicated gopi and just losing sense of the world and belonging to, your beloved. Then he says, is that your experience? And if not, are you sometimes really high, sometimes less high? And he makes that reference to these gas balloon. He just goes so high, but then when they lose air, they just drop dead on the floor. And they look really like, very bad cucumber that had a bad night and feels like totally rolled over by a truck. It doesn't look good at all. It says, poor me, what happened? I was so high yesterday, and today I'm just a crushed, dead cucumber on the road, feeding the crows. So, sorry, David, I'm again feeding your brain with images. So the souls start to listen to Baba and say, yeah, I think I'm not totally high all the time. I'm also going like this. Have you ever been sitting in Amrit Veda, staring at Baba and feeling basically nothing for 45 minutes and wondering, is my TV not working? Or, maybe I should change the poster, maybe it's in the paper, or maybe the song wasn't the right song. And, I think it happens to most of us sometimes to sit and wonder why it's not really happening with this kind of festive mode of meeting. So then he tells us in the third part that basically you have a plumbing problem and there's something wrong with your plumbing system. And somewhere in one of your pipes, there is a leakage. And you basically need to call the spiritual plumber because you need to get that fixed. And so the problem is, find the leak. Good luck, because you live in a big, complex castle, because you're a king. So you live in a castle. And having a leakage in a little studio is one thing. You can find it easily. But if you live in a castle with multiple rooms and complex galleries and layers of basements and attics and complex roofs with 1,000 years histories, how do you find the leak? We're all kings, isn't it? Everyone is a Raja, and Raja have those big kingdoms. So find the tiny little leak that is draining the heart from its love. That's an adventure. So you find yourself with your little searchlight going in strange corners of your castle, wondering, where is it leaking? And for most of us, the leak may not be very obvious. It's not that you're, a flood somewhere. That's the beginning of Brahmin life sometimes, but later it's more like it's leaking in the walls. It's leaking in very invisible ways, but it's draining the heart. And if, today's Smriti for me is about checking your, how do you call it, a gouge? Is it the English word?
Gauge.
A gouge?
Your
Gauge. Yeah, gauge. Sorry, thank you. A gauge where you see the level of liquids and you check your heart and you say, what's the gauge telling me? 1/4, half, 3/4 full, 100% full. This is the, purpose of the Murli. It's, yes, to show you 100% full, but the variation also. And Baba always says in the Murli, now check yourself and ask your heart, what is the amount of liquid in your heart? What's the amount of love in the heart? And really, that's why I feel these Murlis are pieces of puzzles. And if we put that piece in the heart and say, okay, what's my real evaluation or my real estimation or assessment of the condition of my heart in my relationship with Baba? Do I have a problem with ignition? Do I have a problem with fueling? Do I have a problem with speed? Do I have it's complex machinery. And if you look at the part of the Murli in which Baba talks about leakage, it's really, calling for full evaluation of so many different connections, because he mentions about people, mentions about objects, things, and he's just taking the aspect of attachment. But if we think about, it, attachment, like any other vice, will call upon all the other vices to keep alive and to remain attached to something or someone. It will require a certain amount of greed to keep attachment going and growing. It will keep a certain amount of anger, like a barking dog, to protect the source of attachment. If anyone gets close to your source of attachment and threatens the source of attachment to be removed, your dog is going to bark and say, get out, don't touch my attachment. I'm attached to this. That's anger. ego will, display the peacock attitude to make sure you attract more of that attachment. And lust will make you savor the attachment as if nothing is better than that attachment. So any vice calls upon the other vices to keep itself alive, basically. And so it's a matter of purity of the soul that allows the soul to experience Baba's love. And one thing about the purity of the soul, or if you look at it today with these leakages, that's all the leakage and the attachment, it's all about really realizing that if I'm in the right alignment of hearts between me and Baba, the focus will be on achievements, inheritance, experiences of gain. But attachment or any other form of vice will give the experience of desires, struggle, lack of, missing, emptiness. And when we try to make effort to fill the emptiness by adding, the content, like more attachments, we drain the soul. And then one day we just leave the whole thing because it doesn't work. And so the very delicate and the very subtle switch for effort, what I find for myself, is that I've been a struggling effort maker for years, trying to fill emptiness with attachment, with lust, with greed, with ego. It's never working. It keeps being more and more empty, and it drains the soul from its energy. And the paradoxical effort is, as one friend told me one day, paradoxical image or effort is to do nothing very slowly. And I like that image, to do nothing very slowly. Because that's when we allow Baba to do everything very quickly. If I try to do something, Baba is not allowed to do it. So it's a very paradoxical image that to do nothing very slowly allows Baba to do everything quickly. And in other words, it's to disconnect the stimulation of body consciousness or all its ramification and become very, very still and just accept to look at Baba. But it has to be still. If there's any fire burning, if there's any of these monsters raging in the soul, in the heart, there's no stillness. But when we come to surrender, the image of surrendering is like you realize you lost the battle, and you lost it with L-O-S-T and L-U-S-T and all of their friends. And so you really lost the battle. And you realize that the vices are more powerful than you. Then we surrender. And then when we surrender by saying, I can't make myself full by filling myself with those vices, I surrender to Baba and I say, yes, I think I give you control. You do it. I stop trying to be happy with my vices and I surrender. And I will do what you tell me to do. That's surrender. When we surrender, then we become still. It's like when you are sick and you try to, pretend you're not. Good-looking syndrome. Well, one day it catch up with you and you have to go to the doctor and be honest. And the doctor will ask you, are you cheating somewhere? Are you doing something wrong? And you may say, yeah, that's why I'm sick. And you surrender to the doctor and you lie on the table and he performs surgery. You should not move during surgery. That's a bad thing to do. It's to move during surgery. Stay quiet. Let the doctor do its work. Don't move. Be still. Surrender. That's the state for me. I reached after many struggle with my eyes. Just don't move, stay still, do nothing very slowly, and let Baba, the supreme surgeon, to operate, to do surgery. And that's called love. It's like I accept Baba as he is, and what he wants to do with me, and I allow it to happen. And to be so still that we just feel that we're being filled, we're being gaining, we're receiving the inheritance, we're achieving. Fortune becomes present. It's always been there, but we've never seen it because it was too agitated. And my experience with Baba more and more and more and more and more is to become, that kind of lover who just stays still and do nothing very slowly and accepts Baba to operate on the soul. So today is very interesting concept that the spiritual plumber will have to evaluate your basement and see where is the leakage coming from. I was waiting for the voice to say recording stop, but